Greetings, listeners, and welcome to The Spiritual Experience, a show where we share stories of life, love, and redemption for all of humanity on Earth. So sit back and enjoy. Try to identify with the speakers and not compare. Don't forget to subscribe on all podcast platforms. I'm your host, Jay Lewis, and here we go. Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, whomever you are, however you are. Okay, what's up, everybody? We're back, Spiritual Experience. It's been a little while since I sat down and recorded something. We had a few, I was sick. Remember I told you last time, whatever. Then I've just been a little bit busy and trying to show up a little more in my home for my kid, the one that's left there, and there's a lot of good stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff going on. Who knows if the stuff is good, if it's bad, it's just like stuff, And that's where we're at with it today. That's where we're at with it. Right now I'm drinking some decaf Lipton tea. No, they are not a sponsor. I don't have any sponsors. I don't know if I ever want any. I don't really like to listen to anybody. God forbid I get a sponsor and then I say some kind of outlandish thought. Like a thought. It's just a thought that's out loud. If I just say that, and then they're like, hey, we don't like that. And, I don't really want that if I can avoid it. But I can tell you this. I'm fortunate enough because, I joined this other podcast groups online where we try to help each other, other people who are also starting out or some other people who are already established, but, we're all kind of like in the same elementary school when it comes to this. And, some of them are doing it professionally, or they're trying to make a living off of talking over the airwaves or, doing whatever, podcasts, books, and all this stuff. And, they seem very eager to, some of them eager to help and some of them eager to brag, I guess. They will say how many downloads they have and somebody asks a question and all of these things. They, it's almost like they can't wait to shine in the locker room, with their teammates allegedly. Like, you can't shine on your own team. Then it's not really a team. But whatever. Either way. So, I'm basically saying that to say this, that I want to thank all of you for listening on a consistent basis. And I'm very proud that, we're all doing this together. Maybe it will inspire you to do something that is that's not work related, that's not home related, just something for yourself. And it's nice to be able to try and do that. And whatever that may be, I just hope you all find the happiness, So one of the things which is funny to me, that I've been learning about, this is not podcast related, but this is related to me being home a little bit more, is my kid is taking a Holocaust class in school, in high school. So I'll say something like, oh, do you have social studies homework? She's like, no, it's Holocaust. It's like, okay. I thought that was social studies, but apparently it's its own course. And they're really, I don't know, I guess it's pretty intense. I don't know, how could it not be intense? We're talking about Der Führer and how Germany, those guys, you have to really admire them for being ambitious. If you are ambitious in any way in your life. even people who are doing it for evil. It's admirable that they're trying. And I've always been a little bit drawn to people who do that kind of stuff, who really make their mark. Not going to say like elected officials. I mean, I guess that's impressive on a small thing. But dude, this guy, he talked his people into compliance, a lot of them. That's what he talked them into. He said, hey, listen, I guess we've been kicked around long enough, and we are going to take what's ours, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. So she's learning about the Nazis. They're learning about the Nazis. Whatever, however they identify. Not the Nazis, my kid. But, God damn it, tea's hot. So, so it's funny to me because I know a lot of history about this stuff because I am a Jew and they are Goy. So it has not been driven into them the same way it has been to us. I was listening to a show, where they were talking about nationalism and, whether it's a good thing, it's a bad thing, or whatever it is, love of country. And one thing that the gentleman was talking about was that, Christians or followers of Christ or whatever, that they're taught to turn the other cheek. And Jews, we are not taught to turn the other cheek. We're taught to don't give them an inch. After the history, don't give them an inch. And who knows how productive that is anymore. And maybe you can give them an inch. Maybe not a foot, but an inch to maybe learn how to figure out some stuff on their own. So the point is it's an interesting topic. And I've always been interested in, there's a side of the Third Reich that has to do with like the occult and aliens and devil worshipping or something. I don't know exactly. I watch things and I learn things very peripherally. I don't learn them like it's not concrete. I only have so much bandwidth. And most of it is song lyrics. And I can't make room for history. But either way, so, I watch that kind of stuff too. And so my kid is doing this homework, and I don't have to read the literature, but she can ask me any question, and I'll just know the answer. What they were studying was this topic that I wanted to. It was so like, I wouldn't say inspiring, but it was eye-opening. I was like, oh my God, they're actually teaching something in school, like critical thinking that is relevant to today. But I also think that, the independent critical thinking, young people are very easily strayed. So this is without like proper guidance, like they could go down the wrong road with this kind of stuff. So basically the assignment was about whether or not all of the Nazis hated Jews. And I don't think that could be true. I think that maybe a good percentage of them, or it has to be some percentage of them, were coerced a little bit at a time to not like the others. Jews will always say it was only the Jews, but it wasn't only the Jews. I was watching a small clip of something on television where they were like killing kids who were handicapped. You know, if you had they would come and doctors would come and sit with people's families, and, you know, they would, if the kid was, I think it was like 3 or less, they would have like these examinations, and if the kid was off, they just killed him. However they did it. I think they did some by lethal injection. I remembered some of them very sad. They did by starvation. Lethal injection or whatever. They would and they were justifying it by saying, look, you know, we have to create the superior race. But they wanted to get rid of what they perceived to be, I guess, kind of trim the fat, if you want to call it that, by their standards, not by mine, but by their standards. They wanted to trim the fat. They wanted their best players on the field. So they would say to themselves, okay, listen, why would it cost 500,000, what was that current, Deutschmarks or whatever, to build a hospital for handicapped children or handicapped people, when we can just liquidate them and take that 500,000 and put it to good use? Not that that's not good use, but in their mind, like, we can build an apartment complex, or we can do something else with that money. These people, they're dragging us down. And the Germans wanted something to believe in. And some of them believed. And a little bit at a time, some of that irrationality became vernacular. And then it became the norm. And then it became how people thought. And it happens like a little bit at a time, you know. So I understand. Now I understand. Okay, thinking back to Jews, don't give them an inch. Yeah, you know, history says in this scenario that's right. I don't know if you should live your life that way, but yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. So then they were reading this article about these psychological studies that were done in the 60s about how impressionable people are, or how obedient people are. So what it was is that, it says here that in the 1960s, Milgram, whoever that is, sorry, no offense, conducted experiments designed to see how a person will proceed in a concrete and measurable situation in which he is ordered to inflict increasing pain on a protesting victim. Right? So now you have the way that it's set up is pretty simple. They have two participants, allegedly. They have two participants. One guy is, I guess, the boss. The other person is not the boss. And they give them like a word association game or something along those lines. And then what happens is that the guy gets the word wrong. The boss shocks him, and that's it. But they don't let the boss know that the other guy's not really getting shocked, that he's an actor and it's just part of this thing. And the boss is actually the one who's being tested. So they go into this scenario, and this is what was really happening, just to judge, to see like, okay, could you have been a Nazi? If you want to say that, yeah, could you have been a Nazi? Most people are like, no, I could never have done that. So what it was initially, I guess they had all these different variables. I don't want to have to go through the whole thing, but it was pretty intense. It got all the way up to like 330 volts or whatever. And each time, like, the guy would scream, then he would say something else, and then he'd say something else, and then he'd say, like, each shock, it got worse and worse, the reaction from the person. So that being said, what it dove into was like, okay, there's a couple of different things that we can try to unpack here to see how applicable this kind of stuff is in real life. And that's why when I was going through it with my kid, I was like, wow. It's like, there's real life application for this kind of, supposed to, as an adult, people should really read these articles, or even, I don't know if you could participate in this kind of stuff now, whatever. Somebody would be offended that they got duped into thinking they were shocking somebody instead of not. But the point is that, like, okay, there was different levels. Like, were you willing to take the other person's hand and put them on the shocking machine, whatever, right? If you had to physically touch them and do it yourself, that means you go in there and you get your hands dirty, you get busy, right? So that's a hard thing to do. That was a hard thing to do, but there were people who did it, There were people who did it. It was part of the exercise or whatever. And then the next variable was, okay, well, you don't have to touch the person. And then it becomes like a little bit easier to give them a little shock. Some people, they find themselves very gullible once all of a sudden they're in an authority space. Maybe you work with somebody who, while they were on the same level as you or something, whatever kind of caste system that you're trading hours for dollars, however that's working out. But all of a sudden somebody gets a promotion and then they think who the hell they are. And you're like, damn, Charlie, you were not this prickly when you were an associate, but now that you're a manager, all of a sudden your shit doesn't stink or whatever, So back to the lab. So then they continued on, and then they had these other instances where they were creating space. So initially you got to grab the guy's hand, you put it on there, and then there was another study where you didn't have to do that. And that person, they could shock either a lot more people or at a much higher voltage or whatever, that you didn't have to do it. And then they created another space where there was, you can see where I'm going, where they created a space where they had they were in a cubicle, had a wall in between them, right? You could still hear everything, and that's what's scary. But you can't see it. You can't see it, but you could hear everything, and that person could shock to whatever level. And then it got to one where the guy couldn't even hear it or see it. And then he was just following orders, and it was just shocking. And what I thought was funny, one of the arguments was that humans will want to alleviate stressful situations. Like, they can't, a lot of people, I say this all the time because I try and do it with myself, but they want to pacify stress. And so there's two stresses that are going on. There's the stress of the guy telling you to shock somebody, and then there's the stress of the person you're shocking screaming or whatever. So, but giving you an order that you have to do it. Maybe, who knows, maybe they're locking you in the room or something. You can't leave till you do this thing. This is what you signed up for. So then there's tension there between the person giving the orders and the person receiving the orders. Now, the person receiving the orders, they want to alleviate their own tension. The only way they can do that is by shocking their fellow man. So they're doing that kind of, analysis. And they're saying, and even if it's instantaneously, and then the person dictating everything is starting to feed them information, propaganda, right? Starting to say, listen, you don't understand. This guy is a bad guy. We can't really tell you what he's doing here, but he's a bad person. And there's a reason why you're shocking him. Is because he's bad. You have to trust us. We are your people. And it goes on and on and on. And it just goes to show a lot about humanity. And I was talking to my kid and I was like, you see that most humans can be coerced into or corralled into obedience. So maybe they didn't all hate Jews or handicapped people or black people or whatever. People who couldn't read, people who were a little bit slow. Yeah, but over time, they surrendered to that ideology. And I think it's something to, it's something to pay attention to. It is. It's something to pay attention to. So then, the part of the other study is, they were saying that now there's a difference. Now we're going back to the Nazi stuff, not the studies. There's a difference between the people who just straight up killed the Jews or whomever else, killed the non-Aryans. There's a difference between those and those who actually really hated Jews and what they did. They went way overboard than what these people told them to do. Now that's a different animal. For you to go above and beyond where like torture and all of this other stuff different than death, then okay, I can say you hated a Jew or you hated whomever. But, I can't say that every person that participated was really, who knows what the stakes were. The stakes were high enough that everybody was willing to believe. And that's what's scary. So I love that kind of stuff. And I was explaining that to my kid, that's so powerful that we can do that type of analysis. Because now, in this day and age, and I freaking hate to talk about this all the time, but in this day and age, we are not shocking each other. We're on the computer judging each other. And the other person is not even getting hurt. What's happening is we are getting sicker and more miserable with all that judgment that we would never, I shouldn't say never, but we would be very hard to do if the person or thing that we were judging was right in front of us. If we actually had physical experience with or seeing what is going on. An example, we'll go down a few of these. People make things political. I don't know what that even means, to be honest. I don't even know what that means. Make it political. Like everybody, they're saying, oh, this country is so divided. We're politically divided. An example is the border crisis. Let's use that. It's an issue, right? It's the truth. Now, I do not want wide open borders. I do not. And that's my opinion. But I also want the best people on earth to be in America and to help America succeed. So how can we compromise that? Now, I'll say this. I have never been to the wall or whatever wall or to the fence or any of that stuff. I've never been down to the border. So I can sit here in New York and be like, no, bah, 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 bah. And that's like so, it's fucking stupid for me to even believe that because I read an article online or that I watched something on Fox News or CNN or listened to a podcast, whether it's my boy Rogan or I don't know, whoever's like on the super lefty, left. Even though Rogan's pretty left, but the media will have you believe that he is not, but he is. You know, he's so left that they accuse him of being right because they think he's sneaking around the back. It's funny. Either way, dude, I am not there, man. So I can sit here and shout from New York City, listen, this is racist and all of that stuff, right? That all of the liberal media, the agenda, that's what they'll push, that this is racism and this is that. And there are people who live on that border who have real firsthand information, and they will say, listen, I've read accounts from them. Not obviously not every single one, but I try to be as unbiased as I can, and I try to just go for the whatever I perceive to be the truth. So there were some people that were like, listen, people used to, they've been down there, their family's been down there for 2 generations or whatever. And they'd be like, dude, people used to sneak across all the time, and we used to leave food out for them, and then that way they could just take their stuff and keep going, and we wish them well. Don't mess up our farm, don't kill our chickens, or whatever it is they're doing, and keep it pushing. God bless you. So there were stories that's how it used to be in some areas, or some people were saying that this is how I used to be. And then they would get 2 or 3 a month or something that would come through, and they were not a threat. Then it became, over time, 2 generations, whatever, 200 a month. And then there's all of these other things that go involved with that. Okay, like, why are people sneaking over? Is there a better life involved? Is there drugs involved? Are there cartels? There's all of these things, right? All of these things that are involved in this. And I don't know about any of it because I don't live there. Now I know that a percentage of them who are being smuggled, I just don't want anybody to have to be smuggled. The stuff that goes through that, you hear these horror stories, how these coyote, like, bro, they abuse the people they're smuggling. It costs so much money. And yeah, I mean, they abuse them. They beat them, they rape them, they do all these things because those people are helpless. And they're just trying to get over here. They want the American dream. They want the American dream. And I understand that. Because I want I live the American dream. I don't even want it. I live it. I was happy to be born here. And I love America. I do, man. I fucking love America. Now, I don't love everything about it. I'm not one of these animals that says, oh, you don't love America? You better leave it. Like, love it or leave it. Like, that's so stupid. Oh, if somebody ever says that to you, I would just, I don't know. I wouldn't even know what I would do. Because you can't even have a conversation with somebody like that. That's such a silly statement. Love it or leave it. Why don't you try going to Bangladesh? Or why don't you try Russia? But, say all this shit. They pop shit. They're full of fear and they're nothing. They're zero people. Because I love America, but there's a lot of things I don't like about it. And it's the people that I don't like. It's not the country or not some of the ideals and not a lot of the love. I heard it or read it, wherever, eloquently put. It says when people say love it or leave it, you would think, you say, okay, well, listen, if I had a house, which I loved, but the roof was leaking, I would not leave my house. I would just try and fix the roof, which is what we're trying to do. But we can't do that with all of these entitled schnurrer. Yeah, the word is schnurrer, right? Yeah, it's a schnurrer. If I'm bringing it back to Jutang, schnurrers, sniveling schnurrers that are just sucking the life out of this country. We cannot fix the roof with them here sitting in their, wherever they're sitting, on their lawns in a freaking folding lawn chair, sucking down Bud Light bottles with all their entitlement and all their shit, weighing us down emotionally, mentally, financially. This is what I think, my opinion. I'm a nationalist. I love this country. I love this earth. And just because I love my country doesn't mean that I hate any other country. I don't have enemies. I don't. So, this is what I believe. There are enemies to my ideas, but I don't have any enemies. I try to love my enemies. Or my perceived enemies. I try to identify with them. I try to make them not my enemies. But if they want to have a problem with me, there's no problem. You want a problem? There's no problem. At all. At all. Okay, so it's what I think. I think that there's a percentage of this country that is maybe second or third generation. I'm going to say Caucasian. You can say white. You can say cracker. You could say honky. You could say whatever. Maybe they're second or third generation or something, right? They're here. And they're doing zero. They are just sucking the system dry. Because they were born here, they're eating off the fat of the land. Some maybe their grandfather or their great-grandfather emigrated here, and now they're entitled. And they didn't do any of the work. They were just born here. And they're not doing anything to stay here. Like if you're in the third generation American and you are still at the freaking bottom, crying, talking about minimum wage shit, and if you guys have not pulled yourself out of that hole, especially if you are white, then my friend, you have got to go. I don't know where we can send you. I don't know. But I don't want you here. I don't want you here. Because you are the people who are dividing this country. You have not done anything but sit there and get fat physically, drinking freaking 7-Eleven Slurpees and talking shit and like, oh, it's my football game and I'm going to eat these wings. Judging everybody else who are risking their life to try and get here. Some of these guys, like, the people who come through, whatever, South America. Bro, let's say, not in theory, but in reality, let's say in reality, that some of these Guatemalans walked 47 miles, and I'm sure it's maybe 470. Some asshole who's buying boxes for the Super Bowl at wherever, the barbershop. Shout out to Vinny's. I got to stop by there and get a box. But Cousin Vinny, whatever. Cousin Vinny's. Vinny, love him. He's the best. Arson, that's my barber when I don't do it myself. Anyway, this guy, he's, he thinks who the hell he is, and he's done none of the work. And I bet you this guy would not walk 47 miles for anything. Walk, risking your life. No, he wants things handed to him. And he hasn't educated himself. He hasn't started a business. He hasn't brought his family up the ladder, which is the American dream, that you can go up the ladder. That's why those people are basically playing freaking Survivor, Decathlon, Atari Pitfall to try and get over here, because they want to climb the ladder, and where they are, there is no ladder. There is no ladder. And there were people here that I bet you these same fatties that I'm talking about, if their grandparents or great-grandparents, the first people who ever got here in their lineage, if they could see them like that, they would shoot them and put them in the ground, because they should be ashamed. They should be ashamed. And that's how I feel about that. I want the guy. Well, they've wasted their shot is over. I think they should be out of here. I don't know. Have Elon put them up send them to fucking Mars. Leave them there, because there are people from the Middle East, people from South America, people from the Ukraine, from Russia, everywhere that are, bro, they're going to come here. I want the best of the best. And when they earn it, they will become the best. Because these people are risking their lives. I can't even wait 2 hours at the DMV. 3 hours, you joking? I'm ready to start snapping and flipping things over with all my entitlement and all my stuff. That's what I'm ready for. And these people are to become a citizen here, or even to get an H1, I don't even know if they have L1s anymore, any of this stuff. What they have to go through, they're willing to go to any length. To come here, to start in the ghetto. They're willing to come here and start in the ghetto. And you know what? They're not thinking about themselves. They're thinking about their kids. That's why they're so tough on their kids to go to school and to do this and that. And yes, not every single one of them, but, because nobody's perfect. No group of people are perfect. But why is it that the immigrants work so much harder than the people who've been here? Why? Why is nobody saying, listen, I want a white Christian doctor? They'd be like, no, man, I want like an Indian doctor. I want a Nigerian doctor. Bro, every person that I've personally met that their family is from Nigeria and they come here, they crush. They crush it. Their families do not mess around when it comes to education, when it comes to working hard, when it comes to all of these things. And it's like instilled in them. Sometimes it's beat into them. But that's what it is. Domination. They want to be the best. And they don't want to be the best and then go do it somewhere else. they want to be in America, bro. That's why they're here. That's why they're here. It's very admirable. Some of them go back to their own country and do whatever, and that's cool too. They're allowed. But they got to put the time in here. And the people who've been here, Jesus, bro. They've just, this is what they've been doing. Somebody's been feeding them the propaganda, and they have been, I wouldn't say shocking them. Some of them are. You know, that's when you see all those racial tensions and whatever. You know, stupid white people are scared. Only the stupid ones. The really smart ones are the ones who are just like, dude, I'll make money with whomever. I'll do business with whomever. It doesn't matter to me. They're not scared. They don't feel threatened by Mexicans coming over the border. That people coming over the border is Mexican. Most of the people come here, they're not even fucking Mexican, bro. They're not even Mexican. You know? And, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. So I believe that I'm going to say evil. I don't say evil. The evil people who are in charge have been feeding the propaganda to these fatties who are on the first or second rung of the ladder, these fat white hillbillies, making them hate everybody else. But now, you know, they can't shock them. So what do? They just judge them. You know, they just judge them. And that, living like that is its own punishment. And they hate them. And that's so stupid. I don't hate anybody except for the people who hate other people. That's I guess if I have an enemy, that's who my enemy is. Those ignorant people. And so yeah, I want to trim the fat now. Get those people out of here, and I want the guy who swam through 4 rivers to come here, and not even for him to go to medical school. He's gonna work in the fields. He's gonna do whatever. Yes, and maybe he'll do it cheaper. Maybe he'll live in a smaller space than you people would be willing to do, because he's doing it for his kids, for his grandkids. He's not doing it for himself. And that's the thing. That's the thing. You know, so the other side of that coin is what? Right? There are super liberal white people who are, we're going to call them, they're in like the coastal cities or whatever. They're near the water. That's what we'll say. They're near the water. And they think that only smart people are near the water. And they think the people in the middle of the country or down south are stupid. And they lump in all of those other, the fatties, we'll call them the fatties. They lump in the fatties with everybody else. You know, because there's a guy in Ohio or a guy in, I don't know, North Dakota or something, Montana. There are people out there that have suffered at the hand of the government and of the choices that we made to send all of our jobs overseas, to, you know, go invading other places, allegedly defending freedom. There are people who, like, they have fallen victim to the propaganda. that the government is going to take care of them. That if they go to college, they're going to get a good job when they come out. They're regular folks who are trying, not the fatties, but the ones who are trying. And they are struggling because they drank the Kool-Aid. And they're not stupid. They're just suffering. And they need our help. They need our help. The flyover states or whatever. Then you have to fly over. You can drive 2 miles. Sorry, not 2 miles. Definitely not. You can drive 2 hours outside of Manhattan. You start going upstate. There's plenty of them up there too, man. And they're struggling. They're struggling. And they're not stupid. And then somebody comes along similar to Hitler and starts banging the pots and pans and starts talking to them in their language. They don't even, and the language is just fear. Saying, listen, I know that you feel left out. I know that all these liberals, they turn their back on you. And they left you hanging. But I am here to save you. You know? That's how Orange Boy got into the White House. Because Democrats are so entitled that they don't want to pay attention to everybody else. It's so crazy. And then you see how they do each other. You see how they did my boy Bernie. It's sad. You see who they prop up. It's crazy. It's crazy. Hillary Clinton. Was that a joke? That was a joke. It had to have been a joke. That was like one of the best things I've ever seen is watching her entitled ass lose. That was the best. I still watch videos when I can. Because I like seeing people have their humble pie. I like that. Yeah, man. Her husband is an animal. Straight up. Straight up. And the way that she addressed and treated his accusers, his public accusers. Imagine what private. You crazy? Like the guy is just, listen, man, he's part of that thing where he's just like, hey, man, I can take and do whatever I want. I'm a governor. Now I'm the president. Bro, that guy was in office and they had the nerve to blame Monica Lewinsky because, quote unquote, she was of age. So it's like, I guess it's okay for him to do that in the workplace with an intern who was maybe 20 years old or something. I don't know how old she was. Let's see. You know, because now that I am in my 40s, how old was Monica Lewinsky when she worked in the White House? Monica Lewinsky, president. He mad that he had an affair with her, right? What is this shit? Come on. She was 22 years old, bro. At 22? If my kid was 22 years old and was working, and this is in the 90s, right? Don't forget, this is like Clarence Thomas time, and oh my God, and Joe Biden, bro, that guy is a piece of shit. As a human, he's a piece of shit. And, you know, he was blasted. This guy he's the worst. Bro, he's blasting the lady who accused Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill. Blasting Anita Hill, right? Like an animal. He was a big part of the crime bill, why black and brown people are in prison for profit. Yeah, he is like an evil guy. He is not our friend, right? So if my kid, I have I do. My middle one, the step one that's upstate, if they was working in, let's say they started a job at Tesla, right? And they were enamored by Elon. And Elon is in his 50s and they are 22 years old. And they have all this power and all this influence and over them because they work there and they're trying to be somebody. Maybe they want to be in product design. Maybe they want to be an engineer. Maybe they want to they're inspired, right? They're inspired. That's why they're there. And the older person coerces the younger person and takes advantage of that. It's madness. It's madness. That could never happen anymore. But that happened, right? Bro. That was Hillary's husband. For whatever reason, she stayed with him. Dude, I wouldn't allow that guy around anybody who was younger than 73. Any woman younger than 73, he's going to try and he's going to try and wet his beak. Going to try and wet his beak. So yeah, she had her day to eat her shit pie. And I don't know how feminists or how women, I don't know how you could overlook that and not just, hey, look, oh, well, it's either her or Donald, and Donald is grabbing him by the whatever. And listen, how about they're both bad? How about they're both freaking bad? How about those animal liberals who do not want homeless shelters for men in their neighborhood? They are bad people. How about they are just as bad as those super right-wing. They're not even Republicans. They're conservatives. They're good. Ooh, I'm getting choked up. Hold on. Lipton tea. Okay. They're just as bad as those animal conservatives. Think that every Mexican coming over here is smuggling drugs. They bring crime. They're rapists. Bah, bah, bah. Those people are also animals, and those are the ones that are, giving the orders to people to buzz other people, and it's disgusting. And they should be ashamed of themselves. I am a Republican. And that's the fact. I am not a conservative. There's some things I'm very liberal about. But I am a Republican. And I love the opportunity that America can give other people on this earth. You can come here and it may be easier or harder than other people. But if you get here, you can start a business and it will suck in the beginning. But we allow that. And you can build something for yourself, your own little patch of dirt, your own little freedom. You can have that here if you're willing to put in the work. And if a few things go your way, and a lot of things will not go your way, and do not expect the government to come and help you. They will not. If they do, it's never a favor what do they say? A favor will kill you faster than a bullet. You can be self-reliant here. And you can find other people who are trying to do the same thing. And they're doing it. They're in the fight with you. And it doesn't matter what religion they are. It doesn't matter what race they are. None of that stuff. They know what it's like to have nothing and make it into something. You know? That's what they know. And those are our brothers and sisters. So, all of these entitled fatties that I spoke of, and all of these entitled super liberals who don't want the men's shelters in their neighborhoods, or, you know, whatever, or want to just open up the borders without considering the people who live down there, who have to, you know what I'm saying, who are just like what they are. The super liberals, this is who they are. They're those people that are in the experiment that are pushing the button and the person's not even in the room, so they don't even hear them. They just know that they're shocking people. And they're saying, well, those people are bad because somebody told me they were. Not because I have any first person account of that. You know? And I don't want to be around people who are like that. I try not to be. I mean, if somebody's willing, who's like that, and they're willing to have a conversation, I try to have a conversation with them. You know? And not maybe, mostly because I believe this is how I've learned what I learned. And I can learn anything from anybody. You know, but sometimes it's really just boils down to, you know, are you willing to take that person's hand and put it on the fucking buzzer, bro? You know, you really are looking to help people, but you don't want background checks. You don't want to find out where they're coming from. You just want to let anybody in the country. We want not just no borders. We have to work on the process that we have to do. And I think we have to make room. And like I said, you know what I said, make room with the fatties. Get them out of here. Their days are numbered anyway, hopefully. But, so there's, the liberals that they want to do that kind of shit. I just say, look, listen, would you consider going down to the shelter and take the 17th person in the bed? Just walk, say 17 beds. Say, okay, listen, Janice, you can come live with us now. Get your stuff. We're going to show you the way. They say, no, of course not. I would never do that in my own house because blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, what the hell are you suggesting then? That's what you're suggesting. But you're not about that life. You're just about that virtue signaling that you want to, in theory, be that person, but you are not that person. Because if you were about that life, you would just go to the 17th bed and say, come stay in my house. I don't know who you are. And you know what? We may not have a bed for you, but you can stay on the floor. And I have plenty of food to feed you. And I'll help you get back on your feet. When I ask them why they won't do that, it turns into something else. Then it turns into, oh, what are you, a Trumper or whatever? No, I'm a human being. I'm a human being. And apparently, you are not. Or maybe you are. Yeah, you are human. You're just not perfect. I'm not perfect either. But, you're entitled. That's what you are. You're an entitled person. And the truth is that everybody's entitled to something, especially love, especially acceptance, second, third, fifth, 10th chances. Everybody's entitled to their opportunity for redemption. This is why we're here, for redemption. Anyway, guys, I appreciate the time. I love you all. See you on the flip side. I'm trying to work on, learning how to market the show some more so we can help some more people. I promise you, I do not need the money for survival at all. So I don't need advertisers or whatever. But if advertisers come around, that would be nice too, because then I could take that money and do good things with that money, because that's what I do with all of my spare money. And I do what I can to take care of my family, save for not even a rainy day, like a rainy year. And the rest, man, we put it back in the community. And that's what we do, man. $1 at a time, a 20 at a time, whatever. It's all good. We spread love. That's the Brooklyn way, right? Okay, everyone. Peace. We want to thank you all for joining us today. And please don't forget to like and subscribe on all podcast platforms, and find us on Facebook where you can become part of our family. We'll see you around.